Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a strategy that, on the surface, makes absolutely no sense. It powers a huge part of the financial world, yet it seems completely backwards.
I mean, seriously, it's a fantastic question, right? Feels like you're trying to pick up pennies in front of a steamroller. But the logic behind it, well, it has a lot less to do with high-stakes Wall Street trading than you might think.
To really wrap your head around this, we've got to shift our whole perspective. We need to stop thinking like a frantic stock trader and start thinking like a calm, cool, collected property landlord.
Okay, so let's dive right into this analogy because I promise you, once you see it this way, the entire strategy just clicks. First up, let's talk about theta. And look, forget the scary Greek letter for a second. In our little world here, theta is just the rent. Simple as that. It's the daily fee someone is paying you for access to your property.
Right, that's the logical next question. If theta is the rent, there's got to be a property. The buyer or the tenant isn't just handing over their hard-earned cash for nothing. They are paying for access to something really valuable.
And that something is called gamma. Think of gamma as the keys to the penthouse suite. It's the incredible panoramic view. It's the potential to make an absolute fortune if the stock price makes a huge, explosive move. The renter is paying for a lottery ticket, a chance to experience that incredible upside.
So let's just lay it all out side by side. In this model, the landlord, well, that's the option seller. The rent they're collecting every single day, that's what we call theta. And what are they renting out? Access to that penthouse view, that explosive potential we call gamma. And the whole thing is governed by the rental contract, or in our world, the option contract. See? It fits perfectly.
Now this all sounds great for the renter, doesn't it? But it brings us right back to that first big question. If the tenant can hit the jackpot, why on earth would any landlord take on the risk of having to give up their amazing penthouse?
Well, here's the secret. The game is tilted, just ever so slightly, in the landlord's favor. You see, if the risk and reward were perfectly balanced, this would just be a coin flip over time. But it's not. There's this small, persistent premium that gets paid to the people willing to provide this property for rent.
Now, this little edge, it actually has a technical name. The variance risk premium. I know, big words, right? But all it really means is that the market consistently overestimates how much things are going to move around. Sellers are basically getting paid a little extra because the market as a whole tends to be a bit of a worrywart.
And to see this premium in action, all you have to do is compare two ideas. First, you've got implied volatility. Think of this as the fear premium. It's what the market thinks is going to happen. Then you have realized volatility. That's just reality. It's what actually happens to the stock price.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. Over the long run, the market's expectation, that implied volatility, is pretty consistently higher than what actually happens, the realized volatility. You see that small but persistent gap between the two bars? That right there, that is the seller's edge.
You know, as one commenter from the source material put it perfectly, this whole thing works just like an insurance market. I mean, think about it. Would anyone sell car insurance if, on average, they didn't make a small profit? Of course not. Sellers are providing a product, market insurance, if you will, and they get compensated for taking on that risk.
Okay, so we've established this edge is real. It exists. But what's it actually worth? Is this something you can actually build a strategy around? Well, studies have shown that if you just systematically collect this premium on the S&P 500, historically, it's averaged around 11% a year. Now, that's not a get-rich-quick scheme by any means, but it is a real quantifiable edge.
So if the average is 11%, how can a trader do better? How can you level up? Well, the answer isn't just about being a landlord, it's about being a smart landlord. And it all comes down to one of the oldest principles in any market.
Buy cheap, sell expensive. It really is that simple. In our case, this means we are not just renting out our property all the time, no matter what. No way. We're going to wait for the absolute perfect moment.
So, here's the crucial point. We don't just want to be a landlord collecting a steady rent check. We want to be the landlord who only rents out their property when demand is completely through the roof.
The source material gives us this perfect scenario. Let's say you know the fair rental value for your property is $4,000 a month. But because of a surge in demand, you look at the market and people are lining up willing to pay $6,000. That extra $2,000, that is an inflated premium, and that's the real prize we're hunting for.
And this way of thinking, it translates directly into a clear, four-step trading process. First, you analyze the property, the underlying stock. Then you determine what you think the fair rent is, your best guess for its actual volatility. Step 3, you check the market rate, the current implied volatility. And then, step 4, if that market rate is way higher than your fair value estimate, you rent it out. You sell the option.
So it really all comes down to this simple but incredibly powerful formula. The entire strategy is about finding those moments when the market's fear, the implied volatility, is significantly greater than what you believe the reality, the realized volatility, is actually going to be. That's the whole game.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, let's just distill this down to the most important things you really need to remember.
First, and this is crucial, remember this is not free money. It is you getting compensated for taking on very real risk. The risk profile means you're going to have a lot of small wins, but you have to be prepared for those occasional, sometimes painful, large losses. So the real skill here isn't just collecting rent, it's learning how to accurately price risk, hopefully better than the market. Ultimately, you're playing the role of the house, the casino, the insurance company, and you profit over time because of a small statistical edge.
And that leaves us with a final question to think about. Now that you understand this model, it's worth asking yourself, in the market, and maybe even in other areas of your life, when are you the tenant, paying for a chance at that penthouse view, and when are you the landlord, systematically collecting the rent for taking a calculated risk?